everybody, I'm Emily, one of the designers with the Quilted Cow, and I am here to show you how to make the Buddy Bandana. This cute bandana is awesome and you're gonna love it, but first I need to thank our sponsors. We are sponsored by Husqvarna Viking Machines, Creative Grids, Rulers, Mats, and Cutters, and Wilmington Prince Fabrics. So let's get started. So this Buddy Bandana is super cute and I love it because it actually wraps around your dog's collar. It is not going to tie around your dog's neck, so it won't get caught up. You'll be able to take it off with the collar, change it out, do whatever you want to do with that. So this bandana kit, it comes in one kit and it will make 5 different sizes. And the sizes range from extra small, which are your little bitty dogs, to small, medium, large, and extra large. And those extra large dogs are 100 pounds plus. So go to the website, make sure you pick up your kit. Each kit is going to have the instructions on how to make this. It's going to have fabric to make at least one of the extra large or one of the large. You can also make up to 6 of the extra small and the small ones. So check out those kits. Make sure you pick it up. It's going to have everything that you need to make these bandanas. The pattern is included in the kit, or you can buy a postcard pattern separate. So check those out, grab your kit, and let's get started with how we're going to make these. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna cut your fabric to the size that it says on the pattern for the size of your dog. Remember, those extra small ones are gonna be those really small dogs. The extra large ones are gonna be for the really large dogs. I have a 100-pound lab and it needs an extra large collar. So once you get that cut, once you get your rectangles cut, you're gonna fold it in half lengthwise, your main fabric, right sides together. And you can put a pin in here. I've marked it with a friction pin. I like to go ahead and just mark it with my friction pin, but go ahead and stick a pin in at 1/4 inch up from the fold on both sides. I'm gonna kind of hold it together. And then in the center, I've made a mark just where the center is of the raw edge, that long raw edge. So once you get that mark made on that long raw edge on the center, the pattern is going to tell you how many inches you're going to need to measure to the left and to the right of center and make a mark on those. So once I've got that, so I'm actually going to make a mark. You can put a pin in to mark the spot, or you can make a mark with your friction pin. But this extra small one, I need to go 1 3/4 inches to the left and to the right of center. And then once I've got that done, I can leave my marks, but I'm going to remove that pin, or keep the pin in if you haven't made a mark. If you're just using your pins, leave that pin in where it is. And you're going to take your ruler and line up where you made that mark and the end of the pin on the edge of the fabric. Take the pin out and we're going to cut that. So let's go ahead and get that cut and just cut off that triangle. Now, I was making several of these at once, so I decided to cheat a little bit because you're going to use your main fabric as your template for the accent fabric. And if you lay it right on top, and make sure your folds are all lined up, your raw edges are all lined up, you're going to be able to just cut it all at once. So I'm going to use my main fabric as the template and give myself a cut off that corner, and then come back around. I'm going to turn this so that I can cut it easily with my right hand. Make sure everything stays lined up. Where that mark was, that 1/4 inch mark up from the fold to that mark away from the center. And I'm going to cut both of them at once so they are both cut and ready for me to work with. All right, so once we get that done, we're going to open this up, and it makes a funny shape, and This is going to end up working out wonderfully for our collars. So I'm going to lay the accent fabric right sides together on the main fabric. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around, but I am going to leave an opening for turning on one of my long edges. It doesn't have to be a very big opening because there's not a lot of fabric you're going to have to turn through this. So that'll be all right if you just leave that from a little bit in from the corner to a little bit in from the corner. Don't forget to backstitch to secure your stitches before you leave that opening and at the beginning and end of that opening, and come back and meet me here in just a moment after I get this all stitched together. Okay, so now that we've got that all stitched, I am going to go ahead and clip some of these corners to reduce the bulk. These wide corners that aren't quite a 90 degree, those aren't too big of a deal to not clip, or you can just do a quick little snip from the outside in towards the seam allowance, just so that it's able to fold over easily. So I'm going to get rid of some of this extra, just so I can poke those corners out nicely. Just make sure that you do not clip through your 1/4 inch seam allowance, because then you'll be back at the sewing machine sewing again to make sure everything gets secured. All right, and then one last little clip, and then we are going to turn this right side out through our opening. I love these little bandanas. They are so wonderful. I especially love the fact that they do fit over your dog's collar. So that is one of the things that you are going to need to reference, though, in just a few moments. I'll show you. All right, get all of these corners poked out nicely. And then we're going to iron this flat so everything lays nice and flat. Sometimes every once in a while you have to kind of roll that seam a little bit just to make sure that everything is pushed out right. And then the last part of the seam that I want to press is going to be where that opening is. So I'm going to give myself a moment and just fold that in to where it's laying nice and flat. And then I'll hold it down, grab the iron, and press that. Have that pressed nice and flat. So the last thing I'm going to do with this part of the project is I'm going to come around and I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around those edges, and that's going to close that opening. So I've got one that's already been top stitched. As you can see, it's one big weird shape, not quite a triangle, not a rectangle. It's a nice polygon. So we are going to take this and we're going to fold it in half, but whenever you fold it in half, you're going to offset these two corners here so that they don't lay one right over the other, because then you're not going to see that accent fabric. You want to make sure it's offset by about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, however much you want to do. So that's completely up to you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your dog's collar. You're going to measure the width of the collar so that you know how wide of a seam that you need to sew on this right here. Now this is for a larger dog than what this dog is going to be, so it might be a wider collar. The other thing you're going to want to remind yourself to make sure that you have room for is these clips and the buckles that are on the collar. You want to make sure that they're going to be able to fit through that opening nice and easily. So if you measure the width of your dog's collar, and let's say it's 1 inch, you want to add at least 1/2 an inch, sometimes 3/4 of an inch, especially if you've got really wide buckles on the edges, on the ends. You want to make sure that you measure a little bit beyond that. So then what I'm going to do here is I can take my marking utensil and hold this here. And so if I've got a 1 inch collar, then I'll add another 1/2 an inch to it, to sometimes 3/4 of an inch. Let me see here. Yep, there's 1.5 inches. That's actually too much. So, depending on the size of the dog, and then you can mark all the way across, and then you're just going to top stitch on the line that you marked there. And that's then going to give me the the stitching and the hole for my collar to thread through. So once you've got that done, you just thread your collar through and then put that on your dog, and your dog will look all kinds of fancy whenever they're ready to go outside. So head to our website, grab yourself a kit. It is the Buddy Bandana. Like I said, you can make 1 to 6 of these bandanas depending on the size of your dog and the size of the collar that you need. Check those out. Go grab yourself a kit. Make sure to like and subscribe to our videos, and thank you so much for watching.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats, and Wilmington Prints for the beautiful fabrics. Thanks for watching.